Welcome back to Northern Tales, where every woman's story carries its own echo. This is part 3 of Fatima's journey. After betrayal, after the stage arrest, after the tears, what comes next when even family turns away? If you're new here, subscribe and join us every Thursday and Sunday for stories of sacrifice, survival, and strength. Now let's return to Fatima. After the rendezvous point, Fatima and Nkechi drove back in silence to Nkechi's house in Maitama. The city lights glowed outside, but inside the car, the air was heavy, words locked in their throats. When they arrived in Nkechi's home, without a word, Nkechi went to the kitchen, brewed 2 cups of chamomile tea, and handed one to Fatima. Fatima accepted it quietly. Both women sat in silence, sipping the tea like it was the only thing anchoring them to the present. Nkechi asked the maid to prepare the guest room. After finishing her cup, Fatima took a slow and warm shower, water rinsing her body, but unable to cleanse the ache in her chest. She slipped into a robe, lay on the soft bed, and stared at the ceiling. The emptiness pressed down on her. It wasn't ordinary sadness. It was the kind of hollowness that made her feel like she was sinking into herself. Quiet tears slid down her cheeks, then grew into deep, gut-wrenching sobs. Nkechi entered quietly. She didn't speak. Instead, she sat at the head of the bed, lifted Fatima's head gently, and placed it on her lap. Her hand stroked Fatima's hair as she wept, and tears filled Nkechi's own eyes too. They stayed like that for a long time, one sobbing, the other silently mourning inside, until at last Fatima's cries subsided. Exhaustion pulled her into uneasy sleep. Nkechi wiped her own eyes, rose slowly, and left the room, retreating to her own. Fatima didn't wake until late the next morning. The sun was already high when she stepped out of the guest room around 11 a.m. Her hair wrapped loosely, her eyes puffy but calmer. She stopped short at the sight of Nkechi lounging on the sofa, eyes fixed on the television where the uncle's voice dissected the business news. Fatima blinked in surprise. Ah, you didn't go to work? Nkechi turned, a sly smile tugging at her lips. No, ma, I'm nursing my boss. They both laughed, the sound warm and unforced. At the dining table, the maid was already laying out breakfast. Golden pancakes stacked neatly, slices of toast still steaming, and a bowl of rich goat meat pepper soup filling the room with its spicy aroma. Fatima smirked, shaking her head. No wonder your hips keeps increasing. See enjoyment. Nkeji burst into laughter, swatting playfully at her. Fatima joined in, and for a moment the heaviness of the past days melted into lightness. They ate in companionable silence, no need for long conversations. The closeness between them had grown beyond words, shaped by the fire of the past weeks, by shared secrets, by tears, by loyalty, tested and proven. The rest of the day drifted by slowly. They sat together on the sofa, flipping through channels, sometimes making small talk, sometimes just sitting quietly side by side. Even silence felt full now, carrying with it an unspoken comfort neither had to name. The evening air was light, with the aroma of pepper soup still lingering, the glow of the TV screen flickering across the room. Fatima and Nkechi curled on the sofa, half watching a Nigerian movie on Netflix, letting the storyline distract them from their own tangled script. Suddenly, Nkechi's phone rang. The name flashing across the screen made her frown. Fatima's cousin, the one from the Ministry of Finance. She gestured to Fatima sharply. Keep quiet. Nkechi swiped to answer. Nkechi, Nkechi, hello? His voice came loud and frantic through the speaker. Nkechi winced, irritation edging her voice. Why are you shouting like this now? What is it? There was a heavy breath on the other end. Then his words stumbled out. I watched the video of Fatima being arrested by EFCC. Nkechi's voice was flat, almost dismissive. And so? His voice cracked with fear. Nkechi, those are not real EFCC. I'm afraid she might have been kidnapped. Both women sat bolt upright, glancing at each other with wide eyes. Fatima fumbled for the remote and froze the TV screen. Silence wrapped around them for a moment, their chests rising and falling in sync. Nkechi's voice dropped, sharp. What do you mean? He steadied his breathing, words slower now. Fatima's director saw the video too. He called me this morning, asking what was happening. I told him it was the EFCC case from their ministry, but he was shocked. He said there was no case like that. None. Fatima's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, ready to blurt something. But Nkechi shot her a look, pressing a firm hand over her lips. Her eyes burned with warning. Not a word. On the phone, the cousin's voice trembled. We've been trying to reach Fatima since morning, but her phone is switched off. The whole ministry is on edge. Please tell me what is happening. Nkechi straightened her shoulders, her tone shifting instantly into the smooth, steady cadence she used when closing multimillion naira deals. Polished, calculated, unshakable. Listen carefully. Have you told any of your family this? No, he whispers. Nkechi said, good. Her voice crisp with authority. Fatima is in some kind of trouble. We had to stage that act to get her out of public eye. If you want answers, meet me tomorrow at your office. He swallowed audibly. Yes, yes, I will be there. And one more thing, Nkechi continued, her tone sliding into that velvet firmness that brooked no argument. You will not breathe a word of this to anyone. In return, I will give you 200,000 naira. A bit of silence, then barely contained excitement leaked into his voice. 200,000 naira. Yes, Nkechi clipped. But only if you keep your mouth shut. One word leaks and you get nothing. Before he could stammer another word, Nkechi ended the call. The room fell into heavy silence. Fatima's eyes searched Nkechi's face, trembling with both fear and ill. Nkechi didn't look at her. She placed the phone on the table with deliberate calm, leaned back against the sofa, and whispered almost to herself, the game has changed. Nkechi finally exhaled, her hand trembling as she reached for Fatima's. She squeezed it tight, her face twisting with frustration. I'm sorry, Fati. I didn't anticipate this. She raised her fist and tapped it lightly against her forehead. The old gesture she always made when confusion threatened to overwhelm her. But Fatima shook her head gently, her voice calm, almost protective. Don't blame yourself. It was my idea, this EFCC thing. Their words hung heavy in the dimly lit living room. The TV screen, frozen on the post Nigerian movie, seemed almost mocking, as if the fiction on screen was no match for the chaos in their reality. Nkechi leaned forward, determination hardening in her eyes. Then we plan. We cannot afford another mistake. And so the night unfolded like a war room session. They spread papers across the table, jotting notes, drafting scenarios, countering each other's doubts. Every possibility was dissected. What to tell the cousin, how to handle the director, how to spin the story if it spreads further. It felt less like two women in crisis and more like generals plotting their survival. By 2 a.m., they sat back in exhaustion, but their plan was clear. Roles assigned, words chosen, moves anticipated. For the first time since the charade began, Fatima felt a flicker of control return to her chest. She caught Nkechi's gaze and they both managed a small, tired smile. We'll survive this, Nkechi whispered. Inshallah, Fatima replied softly. They gathered the papers into a neat pile, blew out the candles that had burned low, and finally rose. Tomorrow loomed heavy, but at least they would not face it unprepared. By morning, the plan was already in motion. Fatima switched on her phone for the first time in days, her fingers trembling as she scrolled to Husseini's number, the mid-level director who had pursued her for years. He picked on the first ring, his voice booming with excitement. Kai, 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 kai. Hajiya Fati. Wallahi, it will rain today. You remembered me. Fatima steadied her voice, dropping into a serious tone. Husseini, I am in trouble. Oh, I need your help. At once, his playful tone evaporated. What is happening, Fati? Can you come? Fatima asked him. Where are you? He pressed. She quickly texted him Nkechi's Maitama address. Within 40 minutes, the doorbell rang. Nkechi's maid let him in. When Husseini saw Fatima standing there, his expression shifted. The flirtatious sparkle replaced by raw concern. He rushed to her side. Fatima Yaide, Lafia, what is happening? From the sofa, Nkechi quipped with a teasing grin. I'm here too, whoa. Just saying. They all laughed lightly, the tension easing just for a moment. Husseini lowered himself onto the seat beside Fatima. His face gave gray, his voice softened. Tell me, what is happening? Fatima looked into his eyes, then slid her phone across the table. On the screen, the video of her supposed EFCC arrest played. Husseini's brows knotted. Uh-uh. Fatima, what is this now? She inhaled deeply, slipping into the script she and Nkechi had rehearsed. I was auditioning for a Nollywood movie. I wanted to try acting. I didn't know the clip would go viral. Now my director has seen it and he's furious. I'm scared EFCC themselves might see it. I didn't know who else to turn to but you. Fatima glanced at Nkechi. Nkechi gave the slightest nod, meaning perfect delivery. But Husseini still frowned, his eyes narrowing. Nollywood? This doesn't look staged. Who did you call on the phone? Isn't Karima your sister? Fatima's heart hammered. She forced a steady tone. I wanted it to feel real. I didn't have other actors to play the scene, so I used familiar names. That's all. The doubt in his eyes lingered, sharp and probing. Husseini wasn't a fool. Both women knew it. But they also knew the quiet love he had carried for Fatima over the years. That, in the end, weighed heavier than his suspicion. After half an hour of back and forth, his shoulders relaxed. He sighed, shaking his head. I'll see what I can do. In case they flag this video in the ministry, I'll cover it. But Fati, be careful. When he left, the silence he carried in his wake was heavier than his presence. Both women sank back into the sofa, drained. Fatima whispered almost to herself, I wonder how many lies we have to tell just to cover this mess. Nkechi didn't answer. She only stared at the dark screen of the TV, her silence speaking louder than words. The next morning, Nkechi drove Fatima through the bustling streets of Abuja, her sleek SUV cutting past traffic until they reached the Ministry of Works. Fatima's palms sweated against her lap, the weight of the night lies pressing against her chest. Inside the building, Nkechi waited with the secretary while Fatima was ushered into the director's office. The air was thick with the smell of paper ink and the faint hum of an air conditioner. Beside a desk stacked high with files, the director looked up. His eyes widened slightly, as if he were seeing a ghost. Fatima, he said slowly, what is this video going around? You being arrested by EFCC. Fatima bowed her head respectfully. Good morning, sir. I can explain. He just said curtly for her to sit. Uh-huh. Go on. Fatima launched into the same story she had told Hussein the night before. Her voice was steady, her eyes fixed on the desk as she spoke of Nollywood auditions, viral clips, and mistaken impressions. The director stared at her in disbelief. His pen tapped sharply against the desk before he finally dropped it with a loud clack. Nollywood, Fatima, what has come over you? Who are those policemen in the video? Who are those people shouting your name? They were just actors, sir, Fatima replied, forcing a calm into her voice. His expression hardened. Actors, do you think this is a joke? You're a civil servant, not a clown. There are rules, civil service rules. You cannot tarnish the image of this ministry with this kind of rubbish. His voice rose and fell, echoing off the office walls. For nearly 10 minutes, he lectured her about discipline, about service, about the shame such antics brought upon the entire unit. Finally, he leaned back, his tone softening, but his eyes still sharp. Fatima, I have always known you to be a decent and smart girl. I'm not buying this Nollywood story. Tell me the real reason behind this rubbish. Fatima lifted her chin, staring him dead in the eyes. That is the reason, sir. For a long time, he held her gaze as if searching her soul for a crack. Then slowly he reached for a file on his desk. Fatima's stomach lurched when she saw her own name stamped across the cover. He opened it, drew out a letter, and pressed the small silver bell on his desk. The secretary entered almost instantly. The director handed her the letter. Bring the acknowledgement copy for her to sign before she leaves. Then his gaze returned to Fatima, heavy with disappointment. You are hereby suspended for 3 months. The words sank like stones in her stomach. She rose silently, her legs trembling. Without argument, without protest, she signed the acknowledgement letter, her name scribbled against the page like a verdict. When she stepped out, Nkechi was already standing, her eyes darting between Fatima and the closed office door. No words passed between them. Side by side, they walked out of the ministry, the echo of the suspension letter trailing them like a shadow. The drive back to Maitama was silent. The hum of the car filled the void where words should have been. Neither woman spoke, both buried in their own thoughts, the suspension letter weighing heavily in Fatima's handbag. When they arrived, they settled at the dining table. The maid brought chilled sobo juice in tall glasses, beads of condensation sliding down the sides. They drank slowly, the sour sweet taste cooling their throats but not their hearts. For a long while, silence ruled. Then Fatima spoke, her voice low, almost fragile. You know, Nkechi, I think my problem is not that my family is always asking me for money. After all, I do have money, and what I give them is nothing to me. My problem is that I am broke in love. I long for love. Her eyes clouded. She stared into her glass. I have never felt love from my mother. Baba, he did his best. I know he loved us, but he was always busy. But Mama, her voice trailed off. He let the words hang in the air, too heavy to complete. Nkechi stayed quiet, watching her carefully. Fatima sipped her sobo gently, 10 minutes passing in thick silence. Finally, almost in a whisper, she continued. Mama lost 5 pregnancies before she finally had Awal. Less than a year later, she had Karima, a perfect boy, a perfect girl. Her life was full, complete. She gave a bitter laugh. And then me, always the afterthought. I came when Karima was 7, and by then things between Mama and Baba were bad. He had taken a new wife, younger, and Mama, you know her now. She met her match. That woman could manipulate, connive, even outfight her. Mama spent my entire childhood fighting that woman, dragging Awal and Karima along. Me, I was just there, on the sideline, never close, never seen. Fatima's eyes glistened, her voice breaking. All I have ever wanted is proof. Proof that my mother actually loves me. She dropped her gaze again, her hands trembling slightly around the glass. I should have just kept giving them the money. Maybe then this wouldn't have happened. Her words dissolved into the air. Slowly, she raised her head to meet Nkechi's eyes, her voice heavy with quiet despair. Can you see what I mean? None of them have called. Not since the incident. This is 3 days now. The silence that followed was unbearable. Nkechi reached for her hand across the table but said nothing, because sometimes words are too small for the weight of a wound. That night, unable to bear the silence anymore, Fatima switched on her phone. Her fingers hovered over the screen before she pressed the number she had avoided for some time. Bappa Haruna, her father's younger brother. He picked on the second ring, his voice warm and fond, the way it always had been. Fatiti, salamu alaikum, yaede. The old nickname, the softness in his voice almost broke her. Fatima hesitated, her throat tight. Finally, she whispered, Papa, did you not hear what happened to me? At once, his voice sharpened. No, what happened? The weight of in her chest threatened to crush her. And in that moment, Fatima could not keep up with the lie anymore. Her voice cracked as she told him everything. Not the rehearsed Nollywood story, not the half truth, but the whole truth. The plan, the staged EFCC arrest, the gossip, the suspension, every reckless step. Bappa Haruna did not interrupt once. He listened in silence, the air thick with his breathing on the line. When she finished, the silence stretched until it stung. Then his voice rose sharp and commanding. Where is Nkechi now? Fatima swallowed. She's here, Bappa. Put me on speaker, he barked. For the next 30 minutes, Bappa scolded them both like children caught stealing sweets. His voice thundered, calling their plan reckless, foolish, and dangerous. He raged at their lack of foresight, their carelessness in dragging the family name into the mud. Nkechi sat stiff beside Fatima, her face bent in guilt. Fatima stared at the floor, her cheeks wet. Finally, when the tirade ended, his voice softened. Fatima, I didn't know this your useless brother was placing so much burden on you. Fatima's voice shook. It's not only him, Bappa. Mama and Karima too. There was a pause. Then Fatima asked the question that had lived at the back of her mind for years, a question so heavy it made even Nkechi's eyes widen in shock. Bappa, is Hajia Zainab truly my mother? There was silence on the line, then a low chuckle, followed by words, firm but kind. What do you mean, Fatima? I was one who drove your mother to the hospital when she had you. Your father was away on business. I assure you, no other woman delivered in that labor room that day. No chance you were explained. Yes, she is your mother. Fatima closed her eyes, a mix of shame and relief washing over her. Papa's voice grew thoughtful. What you don't realize is this. You have been independent from childhood. And for Hajia Zainab, if she cannot control someone, she is not happy. You have a problem with her because she cannot control you. Forget about them. Just live your life. His tone hardened again. But I will neither confirm nor deny this EFCC arrest when people ask. This part is your mess to clean up. I only hope you take something useful out of it. The call ended with prayers and subdued goodbyes. Fatima placed the phone down slowly, her hands trembling. For the first time in days, Fatima felt both stripped bare and strangely lighter. The lie was out, the truth had been heard. Just as Bappa's line went dead, Fatima's phone rang again. The name on the screen made her frown, her brows pinching together. Aliyu, her cousin from her mother's side. With trembling hands, she answered and put it on speaker. Yaya Fati, is that you? His voice was sharp with anxiety. Yes, it's me. A loud exhale of relief burst through the line. Kai, Alhamdulillah. I saw a video, EFCC arresting you. Kai, Alhamdulillah. You are okay. Yeah, Kiki, are you all right? The sheer concern in his voice broke her. Tears welled up and spilled over before she could stop them. I'm okay, Fatima whispered, her voice cracking. But she knew she had to stick to the story, at least with him. Aliyu lived in Kano, and she couldn't risk her mother or Awal hearing a different version. So she told him the EFC story from the original plan, painting herself as cornered and desperate, adding that Nkechi had even bailed her by putting her house up. On the other end, Aliyu's voice cracked. He began to cry, not softly, but with guttural sobs that shook his words. Insha'Allah, Ya Fati, you will get out of this problem. I swear, even if I have to sell everything I own. I have a land in Hotoro. I'll put it up for sale. My car too. Together they should fetch 50 million naira. Wallahi, I will do it. His sobs grew heavier. The line filled with his broken gasp. Fati, I will never forget your generosity. You practically sponsored me in school. And when my mother needed surgery in India, you paid more than 10 million naira for her treatment. Wallahi, even if I have to sell the cloth on my back, we will raise this money. I will not let you fall. By now, Fati was crying openly too, her sobs mixing with his through the phone. For once, the love she had starved, or she has been starved of, radiated through the line. Raw, uncalculated, unselfish. Her chest heaved. Words failed her. Finally, Nkechi reached over and gently took the phone from her trembling hands. Her voice was steady, soothing like balm on a wound. Aliyu, it's okay. Calm down. We will call you tomorrow. She ended the call quietly and set the phone on the table. Fatima sat frozen, tears streaking her face, but for the first time in days, her heart carried something other than emptiness. Someone still loved her. Nkechi leaned forward, her eyes steady, her voice carrying both tenderness and steel. You see, Fatima, there are people who love you. Now it's time to start the plan of reinventing you. It's time to come out of the shadows. You are a very wealthy woman, and I have fronted for you in your company for too long. You have nothing to lose now. You must start thinking of yourself. All the things you have denied yourself in the past. From tomorrow, we begin the plan to bring out the new you. Fatima smiled dryly, nodding slowly. Something fragile, something unspoken stirred within her. Thank you for watching Northern Tales, where every silence hides a story and every woman finds her voice. Join us in part 4 as Fatima begins her reinvention and discovers that becoming the new you carries a price of its own. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and keep the echoes alive. This is Northern Tales.